Account 1. An unexpected night on the road. I'd rather not reveal my name or the exact location where it all happened. I've been a truck driver for many years and have always seen the open road as a place of freedom and peace, even during the loneliest hours of the night. But after that night, everything changed. I can no longer drive without glancing at the sky or feeling a chill whenever the road is completely deserted. And as much as it haunts me, I need to share what I experienced, even if anonymously. It was a typical early morning around 2 a.m. I was driving on a remote highway surrounded only by fields and an almost deafening silence. The sky was clear, filled with stars, and the road stretched out like an endless tunnel of darkness, illuminated only by my truck's headlights. I was hauling a load of grain, as I often did, and had traveled that route dozens of times before. Everything seemed normal, until it began. First, it was the radio. It was playing some random song quietly in the background when it suddenly started to emit a strange static, as if something was interfering with the signal. I tried to ignore it, assuming it was just a technical issue. It wouldn't have been the first time the radio acted up in remote areas. But the farther I drove, the worse the sound became. It was like an unknown frequency had taken over, creating a pulsating, discomforting noise. I turned off the radio, but the unease remained. The truck's cab felt colder, as if the air around me was being drained away. Suddenly, an intense shiver ran down my spine, a sensation unlike anything I had ever felt before. It was as if I wasn't alone anymore. I glanced at the mirrors, expecting to see another vehicle on the road, but all I could see was darkness. No lights, no movement. I kept driving, trying to convince myself it was just paranoia from exhaustion, until my eyes caught something unusual. On the horizon to my left, a bright light seemed to hover in the sky. At first, I thought it was a plane or maybe an unusually bright star, but I quickly realized it was moving, and not in a way I had ever seen before. The light seemed to be following me, as if it knew exactly where I was. That's when the unease turned to fear. My whole body tensed and my hands gripped the steering wheel tightly. This was no illusion, and I knew it. The light was getting closer, and I felt an overwhelming sense that I was being watched. Something in that moment told me this was no ordinary night. I was about to face something beyond my understanding. I tried to focus on the road, but it was impossible to ignore the light. It was coming closer and closer, and the strangest part was that it made no sound. It wasn't like any plane or helicopter. It simply floated, effortlessly keeping pace with my truck. My palms were slick with sweat on the wheel, and my heart pounded in my chest. I felt like I needed to do something, but I didn't know what. Suddenly, the light grew so intense it lit up the entire cabin. It was a white, almost bluish glow that seemed to penetrate everything. My instinct was to hit the brakes, but the pedal wouldn't respond. I tried to look away, but it was as if the light held me captive, pulling me toward it. That's when I realized the truck was stopping on its own. The engine was still running, but the vehicle slowed down, completely beyond my control. I glanced around, trying to make sense of what was happening, and that's when things got even stranger. The clock on the dashboard seemed frozen. It read exactly 2:17 a.m. and the seconds weren't moving. It was as if time had stopped. The road around me was eerily quiet. No sound from the engine, the tires, not even the wind. It was a complete, unnatural silence, like the world had been switched off. The light began to pulse, growing brighter and then dimmer, almost as if it were alive. I wanted to get out of the cab, but my legs wouldn't obey. I was completely paralyzed. I don't know how long I stayed like that, but then everything went dark. It was as if someone had turned off a light switch. The glow vanished, and I blacked out along with it. When I regained consciousness, I was sitting in the driver's seat. The engine was off, and the truck was parked on the shoulder. My body felt heavy, like I'd been asleep for hours, but I knew something was wrong. I looked at the clock on the dashboard. It still read 2:17. I grabbed my phone, but the battery was completely drained, which didn't make sense since I had charged it before leaving. That's when I noticed something on my arm. I rolled up my sleeve and saw 3 marks, small reddish circles perfectly aligned in a row. They hadn't been there before, I was sure of it. My whole body trembled. The road was just as it had been before, dark and empty, but I knew something had happened. I just couldn't explain what. The only thought I had was to start the truck and get out of there as fast as possible. But as I drove, the feeling of being watched didn't go away. Something told me this wasn't over. Once I had the truck running, all I wanted was to escape that road. My heart was still racing and my hands shook on the wheel. With every mile, I kept checking the rearview mirror, expecting to see that light again, but the sky was dark and empty as if nothing had happened. Still, the feeling of being watched lingered. It was like something was there, following me unseen. When I finally reached the next gas station, it was past 4 in the morning. The attendant approached me, but before he could say anything, he asked if I was okay. In the reflection on the cab's window, I saw myself, pale, sweaty, and with sunken eyes. I awkwardly told him I'd seen a strange light on the road. He stared at me for a few seconds like he wanted to say something, but then just shook his head and walked away. After refueling, I went to the restroom and decided to wash my face, hoping to pull myself together. That's when I saw the marks on my arm again. 3 small reddish circles, perfectly aligned. They didn't hurt, but they were there, a reminder that what happened wasn't just my imagination. I tried to ignore them, but my mind kept returning to the moment the truck stopped on its own, the frozen clock, and that eerie silence. Something about that light felt like it was trying to communicate with me, but I had no idea what. In the weeks that followed, I tried to forget the incident, but it wasn't easy. Some nights, I'd wake up drenched in sweat, feeling like the light was back, flooding my room. I had nightmares where I was paralyzed, unable to move while something watched me. And those marks on my arm took days to fade. I shared my story with a few fellow truckers, but most just laughed, saying I must have been too tired or dreamed it all. A few, however, looked at me seriously and said stories like mine weren't that uncommon. Some even mentioned hearing about strange lights in the same region where I was that night. To this day, I don't know what happened. I have no answers, only questions that linger in my mind. What was that light? Why did my truck stop? And the most unsettling question, why me? Whenever I drive that road now, I avoid passing through at night. Something deep inside me knows that if it happens again, I might not make it back to tell the story.